So essentially, you're doing a publication on kind of like high country real estate. So people are publishing like each reporter is doing something different. And I'm first time home buyers. So I saw that was something that you kind of publicize on your website. So basically just, a list of things that you can give me of like what to look for and how to look for it. Because especially right now, I feel like the housing market is
hot. It's hard for buyers right now. Yeah. Absolutely. It's really hard. It's even harder for first time home buyers, I think, because they have this, they don't know what they're doing, and it's not their fault that they don't know what they're doing. They just don't know what to expect. And it's super overwhelming, and it's so stressful, and it's so emotional for them because it's their first house. It's a huge purchase. Right. You know what I mean?
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm just going to turn on my...
You're fine.
I totally forgot to do this and want to be able to quote you accurately.
You're fine.
Okay, awesome.
So it's just, it's their biggest purchase that they're going to make at this point in time in their life, right? So there's a lot going through them in terms of emotions and thoughts and stress, and your realtor is there for you. for lack of a better understanding, we wear many hats as realtors, and therapist is actually one of them. So it's really, buying a home can be stressful for anybody, but for first time home buyers, it can feel even more stressful.
Yeah. So what would you say is like the first step for a first time? So you're not looking to rent anymore. It's the first step you would take.
The first step you're going to want to take is to reach out to a lender, whether it's who you bank with, or if you are not familiar with anybody, you can reach out to a real estate agent that you trust. And if you don't have a real estate agent already, look at their reviews, ask friends and family, and I would chat with more than just one agent, because not every agent works the same, and you don't always get along with every agent. So you want to make sure that you are connecting with somebody who you feel comfortable with, because this is going to be a process, and you need to be able to feel like you can ask them questions and not feel uncomfortable about doing that.
And what kind of questions do you suggest that people ask pretty early on?
That's a good question. If I'm a first-time home buyer, and most of the first-time home buyer questions that I get are, when can I see houses?
Right.
I don't want to show you houses until I know that you have been pre-approved, and not pre-qualified, pre-approved. And so there's a difference between the two. Pre-qualified is super quick and easy. They basically just take your information that you give them, and they say, yes, you're pre-qualified. Pre-approval is they run numbers for you. They are getting your W-2s, and they're getting your pay stubs, and they're checking your credit. There's a little bit more that goes into it, but knowing how much house you can afford is so important before you even start looking. And that's why I said the first thing you want to do is get with a lender, because you do want to be pre-approved before you start this process, because you don't want to start looking, you think, oh, I can afford a $350,000 home. And so you start looking at $350,000 homes, and then you're like, I found the perfect house, let's put in an offer, now I'm going to talk to a lender. Please don't do that. You're working backwards. So you want to talk to the lender first, because you may have found the home that you love, and now you're talking to the lender, and the lender says, I'm really sorry, I wish that you could afford that $350 dream house, but in reality, you can only afford $275,000 house. And now your heart is broken.
Right.
And so we want to avoid your heart getting broken.
Do you find that first-time buyers kind of get excited and and jump the gun,
yes.
or that it's more just like I have no idea what I'm doing, like I don't even know.
I would say there's about a 50-50 shot there. Some of my first-time home buyers come to me and they go, I've never done this before, Terri, what do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I go, have you talked to your lender? No? Okay, great. I've got some lender partners I can connect you with. Call all three of them. Don't just talk to one, talk to all three, because one may have two programs that work for you,
mm-hmm.
but their interest rate isn't great. And then you may call the second one and they only have one program that works for you, but their interest rate is better. And the third one may have everything that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to interview essentially the lenders as well to see who has the best package for you as a first-time home buyer.
So who do you find genuinely is in the first-time home buyer range up here? Are they, because I feel like up here is kind of like a second home situation.
We do have, I would say, a lot of our buyers, probably 75% of them, are looking for a second home or an investment property.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say about 25% of our clientele specifically that I work with is they're the locals who are looking to either purchase a move-up home is what we call it. They've been in their first home and their family has outgrown it, so now they're looking to get a bigger home that can accommodate them. Or they are the first-time home buyers who maybe they went to school at State and they love it here and they want to stay here and they've got a job here, so now they're trying to find a house so that they can stay here because they don't want to be in the rent cycle anymore, paying someone else's mortgage.
Is that one of the reasons you would say, like, when would you say is a good time for first-time buyers to start thinking about buying a home? I guess there aren't technically first-time buyers yet, but like people who are renting for a while, like what kind of things do you look for in kind of taking that next step? You want to know that you can afford it, because a lot of times first-time home buyers don't think about all of the extra costs that come with home ownership. So as a renter, you don't have to worry about maintenance of a home. You don't have to worry about paying the taxes on the home. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to need a new roof in 3 years. Those are things that first-time homebuyers don't think about, and they don't set aside enough money for when they are purchasing a home. So that's something that we absolutely talk to our first-time homebuyers about, is making sure that you don't want to overspend on your home because you want to have enough left in the bank to take care of maintenance items or big ticket items that may come up in a year or two that will have to be fixed. And so, I'm sorry, I don't really know that much about.
That's okay.
I'm only 21.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. No question.
So I feel like
is
this is a
silly
good
question.
conversation because I also have no idea, so I'm like over clarifying everything.
No, you're fine.
But so do you find that buying a house when you get to the point where you can is cheaper than renting? Or is that like a more circumstantial question? So
I think it is cheaper in the sense that you are gaining equity when you own a home.
Okay.
It's your home, so you can do anything that you want to it at that point, as long as you're not in a POA, and the POA can't tell you that you can't. POA tells you can't do something, right? But I think it's important to remember, as a renter, your landlord can raise your rent at any point in time after your lease is up, right? There are things that you aren't able to do to a home. Whereas when you purchase your own home, your mortgage is typically going to stay the same.
Right.
Unless there's some sort of tax issue and taxes go up the next year, and so they have to account for that essentially in your mortgage. But your mortgage payment is typically going to be the same. So you don't have to worry about your rent going up. You don't have to worry about your landlord selling because it's your house. So you can sell whenever you want to sell.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about asking if somebody can move into your house to help you pay your mortgage. You can move them in to help you pay that mortgage if that's what you're looking for. Kind of like it's almost like a house hacking, if you will. Bringing roommates in, which is a great thing for first-time home buyers. If it's, let's say, it's even if it's a couple or if it's a single person who's purchasing a home and you're purchasing a 3-bedroom home, until you decide to start a family, if that's even where you're going with your life, you can move in 2 other people into the 2 extra bedrooms, and they can help supplement your mortgage payment. So,
wow. I never thought about it like
that.
So
you can essentially house hack, is what we like to call it, by being able to help take care of part or most of your mortgage by having roommates. So that's another way that you can essentially... It's another way for you to look at purchasing a home in a positive light.
And so tell me a little bit about, the amount of options there are available here. Because, I don't know that much about it. I've heard conversations kind of about the lack of housing.
Yes.
And then you go on sites just preparing for this interview, I went on sites like Zillow and stuff, and there's only 4 houses there. Yes. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys probably have your own type of system, but just kind of how are you navigating that type of situation?
So we are in a housing shortage. Absolutely. Our inventory is so low. In January, our inventory was at 4 months. Our inventory fell in the month of February and I'm going to double check this number for you and get back to you on it, but I have a market update going out on Friday. So, so I want to say it dropped down to two and some change months of inventory. And that basically means that we only have 2 months of homes on the market to be able to be sold. In a stable market, you want to have at least 6 to 7 months worth, at least, to be able to say that we are not in a shift or not in a seller's market or not in a buyer's market. So right now in the high country, we absolutely have a housing shortage. We have no inventory for people to choose from. And what's happening, and it's another point for first-time home buyers, is you have to be ready to go, which is why you want that pre-approval, so that if you do find the house, that you can make an offer quickly.
Right.
So we were seeing things start to slow down a little bit, August, September, October of 2022, and we have now started to see things pick back up again in February, where we're having multiple offer situations again. And you're hearing a shift happening in other areas of the country and how prices are starting to, even out, and, we're not having multiple offers, but here in the high country, because our inventory is so low, it's very hard for a buyer right now. And I don't say that to scare a buyer. I say that because I want you to be prepared to know that when you go to make an offer, we want to make sure we're making that offer nice and strong and we're ready to go. So that's why we want that pre-approval, because most listing agents are going to want to know that you're pre-approved to buy that house.
Yes. And so that's interesting. So this would be a seller's market?
We are considered, right now we are in a seller's market. Absolutely.
Okay. And then a buyer's market would be the amount of months as it increases?
So a buyer's market would be the inventory. If there is more inventory than there are buyers, then it's considered a buyer's market, and the buyer has its choice of any home that it potentially wants within their price point. But right now, because we're in a seller's market, because of the lack of inventory, multiple buyers are looking to put offers in on homes. So you're having to compete with somebody else, which is what we saw all through 2021 and 2022.
So sellers are looking at your credit score?
No.
Or just lenders?
So the lender is looking at, the lender has a list of things that they look at. And typically they're running your credit, they're checking your W-2s, and they're checking your pay stubs, and they're finding out, how much credit card debt you have and things like that. I am not a lender, so I don't know 100% of what it is that they're looking for. I just know the gist. And so what they do, they run their numbers and they base all of that on what you can afford on a home. You would be surprised. There are some buyers who think that they can only afford a certain amount of home, and then they get pre-approved for a much higher number. I caution those first-time home buyers not to purchase a home at that higher price point just because they have been pre-approved there. They need to know their limits. And let's say their limit is, my mortgage payment cannot be more than $2,000 a month. There's the likelihood that that higher number that they've been pre-approved at is not going to get them that $2,000. It's going to be more than that.
Right.
So they need to know their limits and what they're comfortable spending monthly on their mortgage.
Because you get excited and then you don't realize that you're still having to pay that back like a... Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then so what is the seller's kind of... Will you explain that process and how they're involved? Are they the ones who I'm sure they're the ones who accept the offer.
Yes.
Okay.
So what happens is, let's say you're a first-time home buyer. You've seen however many houses that it took, and you have found the house you want to put in an offer on. We write up the offer. Something first-time home buyers don't know is that in the state of North Carolina, we have what's called a due diligence fee. And that due diligence fee is a fee that is paid directly to the seller and is typically non-refundable. And you are essentially paying the seller to take their home off the market while you do your inspections. And so we look at when we're making an offer, we look at the offer price, we look at the due diligence fee, we look at an earnest money deposit. That earnest money deposit is refundable as long as you walk away within the due diligence time frame, which is typically about 30 days. If a buyer is getting a loan, you're looking at a 30-day due diligence period. And as long as you walk away within that 30 days before 5 p.m. on that last day, you can get your earnest money back. But that due diligence fee typically is not refundable. The seller gets to keep that. So that's something a buyer wants to keep in mind as well.
Okay.
And then you want to put in an offer as a whole. You want to make it as strong as you can, and it's not always the offer price. It might be the seller wants to have an extra 40 days in the house. So it's really good as the buyer's agent to make sure that you're contacting the seller's listing agent to talk to them about what is important to the seller. That way you're making sure that you're writing an offer that will help get your buyer accepted. That's strong enough for them. And so the seller will take a look at the offer that's presented to them and decide what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And then they will have their agent negotiate back with the buyer's agent as to what it is that they're looking for. And then hopefully everybody can come to an agreement.
Alrighty. And so when a first-time buyer is walking through a home and, there are some things that need to be fixed that potentially...
There's always things that need to be fixed.
Right. Or like a remodeling type of... Is that when you encourage people to allocate their budget in order to kind of make those remodels?
Yes. So if we're looking through a home and they love the home, but they notice... Maybe it looks like there was an old leak in the ceiling. Or the floors, the carpet is really bad. So you're going to need to at least pull that up and put down new carpet, or if you want to put down any other type of flooring. Those are things we want to keep in mind when we are either going to make an offer or we decide maybe there's just too much in this house to tackle, that we should keep looking.
Alrighty. And this also might be a subjective question, but what are the rights of home-time buyers to request in their offer to the seller? Or is it just kind of...
No. So North Carolina is what we call a caveat emptor state, which is a buyer beware state, which is why we have an inspection period. So during your inspection period is when you want to get your home inspector out. Your home inspector is going to do a general inspection of the house, and then he's going to get you a report. And in that report is when you find if there's something, let's say there's a leak, and we need to get a subcontractor out, which is a plumber. So we're going to make sure we get that plumber out. That plumber is going to tell us how much it's going to cost to fix that leak, or how much it's going to cost to fix the tub, or how much it's going to cost to rerun the line under the sink because it's a S-trap instead of a P-trap, okay? Or I might have that backwards. It might be a P-trap. I don't know. I'm not a plumber. But that's something that seems to happen on a lot of our inspection reports that come back. It's underneath the sink. The piping is not appropriate to what it's supposed to be. So you have the plumber come out, and he gives us an estimate. And then let's say there's some electrical issues. Maybe the breaker, there are 2 wires going into one breaker when there should only be one. Again, I am not an electrician. I don't really know how that works, but these are things that are that we've seen on inspection reports. So we're having another subcontractor, the electrician, come out to give us a quote. So we take those quotes based on things that should be fixed, and we put them in what's called either a due diligence request, or we ask the seller for a credit. So we can ask the seller to fix those things in a due diligence request form. And they would have up until the day before closing, essentially, to get all of that taken care of. Or the problem that we have up here is our vendors they have so much work, they don't have time to get to it before closing. So a lot of times we're asking the sellers for a concession, which is a credit to the buyer at closing. And that helps the buyer to bring less money to the closing table. So it's less in closing costs, essentially. So let's say we're asking the seller for a $2,000 concession. If the seller agrees to that concession, that's now $2,000 less that the buyer has to bring to closing. So let's say the buyer's closing costs are $11,000. Now the buyer only has to bring $9,000 to closing because they have that $2,000 credit.
And you said, clarify for me the buyer beware state. What qualifies a state to be a buyer beware state?
It's just what my understanding, and it's just something that you learned in pre-licensing class, essentially, is that we are a buyer beware state. It just means that essentially the home is being sold as is, and so you can ask the seller for repairs, and they are either willing to do the repairs, or they're willing to give you the credit, or they're not. And you take that chance by going under contract on that house, knowing that the seller either will or will not work with you on what needs to be repaired.
And do you just handle buyers or sellers too?
No, I would say about 50% is buyers and 50% is sellers.
Awesome. So let's kind of just real quick shift into first-time sellers.
Okay.
How you also would approach that first step? How does it compare?
So, first-time sellers, hopefully I sold them their house, so they're calling me back. So they're calling me back to list it for them, to help them move up to the next house, or they've had a job change and they've got to move out of the area and they're going somewhere else. So they've called me up. They said, "Hey, Terri, we've got to go. How can you help us get it listed?" Super easy. You just basically, what we would do from there is, did you guys make any updates? Have you done any upgrades to the home since you purchased it? That's the first thing. So, because that will help with the pricing of the home, whether or not we're able to price it a little bit higher because of the upgrades that have been done. And now, not all upgrades that are done to homes warrant a price increase.
Yes.
Which is it's a very fine line.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Kitchen upgrades warrant it. Bathroom upgrades warrant it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you replace the carpet with hardwoods doesn't necessarily warrant it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we're asking them if they've, updated anything. We typically want to go out to the home. We want to put eyes on it. We want to see the condition of it to get a feel for it. And then we run what's called a comparative market analysis, or CMA. And we gather comps, comparables to the home based on its location, its size, its amenities, and if there are, any upgrades to it. And that's how we come to a price. Now, a lot of sellers already have a price in mind that they think that they should get.
You're the humbler.
And sometimes they're right on the money.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times they're not. And that's usually because they're looking at Zillow, because Zillow is telling them what their Zestimate is. And Zillow is one of the tools that you can use on the internet to help you search for homes. But Zillow is not accurate in our area. Mm-hmm. Zillow might be more accurate in other locations, but in our specific area, it is not. So it is hard for some sellers to understand that either Zillow is significantly higher than what the actual comps are saying, or Zillow might be lower on the rare off chance that they say that they are lower. And so we come up with a price for them, and then we like to kind of explain that less is more in a home. So if there are any personal pictures on the walls, maybe take those down, because it's hard for first-time home buyers to picture themselves inside of that house when there are other pictures of other people in the house.
Right.
So we kind of want to depersonify, if that's even a word. I don't think that's a word. I'm pretty sure I just made that up. The home, so that it makes it a little bit, it speaks to more people.
Right.
And then we'll get the pictures for them and get them marketed. But what we do like to make sure that we explain to a seller is, as long as we have priced you appropriately, we should have activity. However, if in the first 2 weeks we have not had any showings, any phone calls, that is the market telling us that we have overpriced your home, even though the comparative market analysis said we should price you here. That's the market saying they think that we've overpriced your home. Okay. So we need to come down in our price. That's the conversation that we like to have with the seller, the first time seller, essentially. And that's the same conversation we're having with any seller.
Right.
But more specifically so with the first time seller, because they may have higher expectations. This is the first home they ever bought. They have a lot of memories that they've made in this home.
Right.
So a lot of times it's a very emotional decision. Buying real estate is emotional in and of itself, whether you're buying or selling. It's always emotional. For the buyer, for the seller, for the agents, it's emotional for everyone. But mostly the buyers.
Yeah.
You just get so attached to your clients a lot of times that you feel that emotion for them, and at least that's me. That I always feel like I'm really great friends with my clients when we end up closing.
And that's what first-time buyers and then hopefully sellers come back to kind of keep that relationship going.
Yes.
And okay.
Absolutely. And it's all about making sure your client is comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. So, for that, and that's why I said in the beginning, when a first-time home buyer is looking for an agent, they want to make sure that they're getting somebody that they can feel comfortable with. So that if something comes up, let's say you have looked and looked and looked and looked and looked and looked and looked at all of these houses, you're discouraged.
Right.
You are absolutely discouraged.
Right.
it's okay to tell me that you're discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Because I understand that you're discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find that house, but maybe we need to come back to our needs list and take a look at that again and go, okay, what do we really need? And is this a want instead?
Right.
So sometimes we have to go back to that drawing board and figure out what can we take away, because maybe we can't get that right now.
Right.
Maybe we can add that in a year or two, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so important to communicate with your agent and tell them how you're feeling, because we know, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And let's say we found the house, we're under contract, and we've gotten the inspection report back. Inspection reports are terrifying for first-time home buyers.
I'm sure.
They are so scary, right? But as an agent, I've seen so many that I know, yes, that looks scary, but this is normal, and this is such an easy fix. Let me tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you how. Okay? And then, or let's say we're under contract and we've gone through all the seller concessions, and the seller is being very firm about not wanting to give you something that you really want. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Are you going to be very, very upset if you walk away from this because of this specific thing? If so, yes, that you're going to be that upset that you lost the house over this, then let's go ahead and push on through. Let's figure out a different way to make this work. If you are set on that and you say, absolutely no, the seller has to give me this or I'm going to walk away, then it's okay to walk away. That's okay. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you and walk you through and talk you through what are you okay with and what are you not okay with.
So when would you say is, because of that process that you just explained to me, it's kind of like the push and pull of both of those things. Is there a time, like let's say you want to be in your house by June. When do you start looking?
Oh dear.
That's
a loaded question.
Is that I feel like I'm asking you very depending on the circumstances.
No, but it's okay. These are great questions. So typically, if you want to be in your home by June, if you are getting a loan, a typical contract is 45 days from signing to close. You have your 30-day due diligence period, and then you have 15 days for the lender to do their underwriting. And so you're looking at about 45 days. There are lenders who can close you faster than that. They can typically close you in 30 days maybe. And so we shorten our due diligence period a little bit to maybe 20 days. And then that gives the lender 10 days to finish their underwriting.
Explain to me that term, underwriting.
So a lender they send your loan over to this very special person who runs all of the numbers based on all of the information that they've given you, and they're running essentially a risk assessment, if you will. And I am really just guessing this at this point because I am not an underwriter or a lender. But that's my understanding of it. But basically it's for all of the title work to get done. It's for the lender to cross their T's and dot their I's for you to make sure nothing has changed. And meaning that nothing has changed, I'm going to just jump over to something else really quick and then come back. But as a first-time home buyer, you get so excited, I'm buying a house. I need to furnish this house. So I'm going to go buy 2 new bedroom sets, and I'm going to go buy a brand new couch, and I'm going to buy an entertainment center. No, you are not. You cannot buy any of that stuff until after we close, okay? Because once you start making large purchases like that, that is a huge red flag to your lender. And at this point, your debt to income may be much higher, and you may not be approved for the loan anymore at that point. So it's really, 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 really important not to make any large purchases once you go under contract. or even before you go under contract, once you've been pre-approved, you don't want to go on a crazy spending spree. Even though that really nice car is on sale and your car just may have died a little bit, maybe we get that piece brought back to life and you don't go buy a new car until after you close on your home. Because again, any large purchase is going to put up a huge red flag to your lender, and the lender is going to say, I'm really sorry that you paid out inspection fees and appraisal fees, and you have to pay your attorney for running the title now, and your due diligence fee is out, and your earnest money is gone. All of that is gone if your lender cannot close you because you decided to go buy furniture or you decided to go buy a car.
That's a very good tip, I feel like. So if I were ever to buy, even when I am like getting ready to do something different to my apartment, I'm spending all this money.
It's very easy to do. You don't think of these things. It's so easy to do, which is so coming back to, so contract to close is about 45 days. So if you want to be in June, you want to start looking in the mid, like right now, like it's March, 9th today, right? So you want to start the ball rolling right now. So actually you probably should have started in January. Right. But you typically want to start looking if you want to be in by a certain time. Keep in mind it's about a 45-day closing, so you want to give yourself a cushion of time. So you're looking at about 3 months before is when you really want to start focusing in.
So that doesn't include, those 45 days doesn't include once you are pre-approved. That includes once you have signed on the dotted line, on the contract, and that once you and the seller have both come to an agreement and signed the contract, that's when your 45 days typically starts. And that's not set in stone. Sometimes it's taken you 2 days from when you put the date on the contract, and so now it's really 43 days instead of 45. But typically, it's around that time frame. And what areas do y'all cover here specifically?
We cover a very large area. So our team, Mountain Life Realty, at Keller Williams High Country, we cover Watauga County, Avery County, Ashe County, Allegheny County. We cover parts of Caldwell County, parts of Wilkes County, and we cover parts of Burke County. So we cover a fairly large area of the High Country. Yes,
pretty large area. So my publication is Watauga, Avery, Ashe, and that's it. Pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. Well, that's amazing. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think is...
what's on here. We talked about making sure you interview realtors. We talked about getting your pre-approval. We talked about knowing your limits. Oh, home warranties. So home warranties aren't really as big here in this area as they are in other areas, but as a first-time home buyer, a home warranty can be a really great asset to you. And it's something that you can always ask the seller for, or it could be something that you purchase in and of for yourself. Because depending on which package you go with, the home warranty can take care of big ticket items that may go wrong. Let's say your dishwasher goes out in the first year that you've owned the home. Your home warranty, if you have the right package, covers that dishwasher. Let's say your water heater goes out. Again, that home warranty will cover replacing that water heater. And so it's really a great tool to have in your pocket as a buyer, to be able to have a home warranty so that it can take care of those things. Because even though you may have set aside those extra funds that we talked about for maintenance items, maybe something else went wrong and you went through all of that money and now you need a brand new washer and dryer. When my husband and I bought our first home, okay? When we bought our first home, we had a great washer and dryer in the home.
Mm-hmm.
3 months into owning that home, that washer died. Okay? It died.
Oh no.
So we had to go buy a brand new washer. We didn't have a home warranty, so we had to go buy a brand new washer. So it wasn't something that we were foreseeing having to happen because the washing machine that was in that house was fairly new. But it just decided it did not want to work for us anymore. So had we had a home warranty, they would have replaced that washer for us.
Tell me one more time, I don't know if you already said this, or clarify for me, where the home warranty comes from or how you go about.
So there are different home warranty companies out there.
Okay.
We have one that is affiliated with the Keller Williams office. It's called America's Preferred Home Warranty. And each, they have different packages, different levels of what they can cover.
Right.
And as the buyer, if you're asking the seller for it, even still, you want to pick the package that best works for you. And so we can ask the seller to pay for that at closing. If they deny us that, and it's something that you really want, we will let the home warranty people know that you're going to be purchasing the home warranty. This is the package that you want, and then it all happens before closing. You want to make sure that you have that home warranty before closing.
Okay. All right, and just to end on a positive. This is all positive. This has been great. I feel like I could go out and buy a house now.
I know a great realtor.
But just like, what do you say is the best piece of advice for anyone who's watching this or reading this article who's thinking of buying a home and is scared to kind of reach out to a realtor?
Don't be scared. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you. It's overwhelming and it's stressful and it's scary, but the right realtor for you is going to make you feel comfortable with it. And they're going to talk you through it in the way that helps you understand it. So don't be scared. And even if you're in the very beginning stages and you decide, I think I'm ready to go, and you call a realtor and you get with them and you're talking to them and they're said, okay, let's go get a lender. Let's get you in touch with a lender to get pre-approved. And you talk to the lender and the lender goes, you know what? Now is not the best time. Maybe you need to save just a little bit more money, which it happens more often than you think, right? That's okay. It's okay. You do the saving and you stay in contact with that realtor, and a good realtor is going to stay in contact with you too. They're going to check on you, see how things are going. And it's not because they're pushing you saying, are you ready to buy yet? Are you ready to buy yet? Are you ready to buy yet? That's not why they're doing it. Right. There might be some. That's why they're doing it. That's not why we're doing it. We're checking on you to make sure if you have any questions, because you might feel uncomfortable reaching out to us like, oh, well, I'm not ready to buy, so they don't want to talk to me. I'm an open book for you. I want to help you the best way that I can and guide you in the best way that I can to make sure that you have all of the information at your fingertips that you could possibly need to help you make the best decision for you. And that's really ultimately what it comes down to, is making the best decision for you as the buyer. What's best for you. It's not what's best for everybody else. It's what's best for you and your situation. And that's the number one important thing.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Grace. It was very nice to meet you. I really appreciate you doing this. I'm excited to read the article.
I'm so excited. I have so much. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a bullet point thing or kind of, we'll see. But it's gonna be very exciting.
All right, y'all. If you have made it this far, I hope that you have gained a lot of knowledge about first-time home buyers and some sellers. If you enjoyed this content or found it informative, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment on this video, and of course, share it with your family and friends. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.